Hi guys, I Aziz welcome you to CoedMaster. In this video, I am going to talk about classes and objects in object-oriented programming. This topic is one of the most confusing topic of object-oriented programming. Many people often find this topic difficult to understand and digest. And the reason is pretty simple. Because they do not understand the nuances of classes and objects and what is the idea behind the concept of classes and object. It is nothing short of chicken-egg dilemma. Like people often confuse that what comes first, class or object. So today, let me take this opportunity and demystify the concept of classes and objects in object-oriented programming to make you understand classes and object in simplest and best way possible. So guys, if you are willing to learn classes and object, then this video is for you. So make sure to watch this video till the end. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So first, let me recall what we have learned in the previous video. And for those who have not watched the previous video, I highly recommend to watch the previous video first and then come back and continue watching this video. So in previous video, we learned that what is object-oriented programming. We also understood that people always think in terms of object. And we also understood that why object-oriented programming is so popular paradigm among all the paradigm. And the reason is pretty simple, that using object-oriented programming, we can write flexible, extensible and maintainable code. Now this was the recap of the previous video. Now moving on to next topic. So guys, if you search this term classes and object on internet, you will find these three common definitions all over the places. Like class is a physical entity and object is a logical entity. Class is a prototype, blueprint, template from which objects are created. Class is a set of objects which shares common characteristics, behavior, and common properties or attributes. But guys, by looking at all of these definitions, still you feel confused all the time. Because the reason is simple, that you cannot relate with these definitions. All of these definitions feel overwhelming to you. So today, I will explain the concept of object and classes in such a way that after watching this video, you can easily relate with all of this definition. And mind you, all of these definitions is absolutely correct. The only thing is we do not perceive these definitions as needed. Okay, so let's begin. So guys, if I ask you that what is this shape, then what would be your answer? Obviously, you do not have any answer because you have never seen this shape before. You are seeing this shape for the very first time. So that is why you do not have any idea that what shape is this. And you are completely clueless. And on this matter, you are completely dumb about what shape is this. So now let's move on. Now if I show you this shape and ask you that, guys, tell me what is this? So by looking at this shape, you would answer without any second thought that this shape is square. Now have you ever wondered that why it happened? Why you didn't answer when I asked you about this shape? And why you answered confidently when I ask you about this shape? It is because that you have a perception in your mind that when you see any shape with four corners, then that shape is nothing but a square, isn't it? Make sense? So the thing that is set in your mind is nothing but a template or blueprint or a specification. And this template, blueprint and specification says that whenever you see an object with four corners, then it must be a square. That is why you have quickly answered my question that this is a square. Now in real world, we call this as entity. But in object-oriented programming, we call this entity as object. Make sense? Now guys, if I ask you that draw a square or show me a square, then in this case, what you would do? Obviously, in order to draw a square, your mind will recall the perception of the square, that a square is an object that has four corners, right? So you are drawing a square using the same template or blueprint or specification, right? All are same thing, and all of these things defines the same thing, that an object has four corners and that object is nothing but a square. Now in object-oriented term, we call this template, blueprint and specification as class. Right? Now if I ask you that what is square? So a square is nothing but It's a object that is created from this template. Or in terms of object-oriented programming, a square is an object that is created from the predefined template or blueprint or specification. All are same thing. Make sense? Now, again, going back to the previous example, that in this example, you were completely clueless and dumb about what shape is this. And if I talk about this example, you are aware that this shape is a square shape. So you immediately answered that this is a square. And why is it so? Because you have that perception or that template set in your mind that if an object has 4 corners, then it is a square. Now, this is what happened in the world of computers. So guys, computer is a dumb device. Means computer does not know anything about anything. Okay? We have to tell computers that what to do. So, which means we give instructions to our computer that you have to do something or you have to do a specific task. And we also give computer a step-by-step instruction that to achieve a specific task, you have to follow all of this process. Okay? So guys, if we tell our computers in terms of object-oriented programming that give me a square, then what do you think? Will your computer is going to give you an object of square? Absolutely no. And what is the reason? Because your computer is a dumb device. Your computer do not understand how to create an object of square, right? So in order to tell your computer that how to create an object of a square, you have to tell your computer then how to create the object of a square by giving it a blueprint or template or specification, right? And in terms of object-oriented programming, we call this as class, as I said before. So we can say that a class is a blueprint or template or specification from which object is created. So this is why we call class as a logical entity, because class does not occupy any memory. It is simply a template that sits somewhere on the computer, and using this template, our computer is able to create an object of that class. So what about this square in object-oriented terms? So in object-oriented term, we call this as object, and this is a physical entity. And why is it so? Because it occupies memory. So whenever we create object, the object gets created and stored in a memory. And how this object gets created? It is created using specification or class. Now, we all know that object has attributes, state or behavior. So what is the state of this object? It has 4 corners. Okay, this is the state of this object. And what is the behavior of this object? We may say that this object has a behavior that we can open the box or we can close the box, right? So we can say that this is a behavior and this is the state of this object. Now let's go back to the definition we saw before. So now I hope that you can relate with all of these definitions, that class is a physical entity and object is a logical entity. Class is nothing but it is a prototype, blueprint, template from which objects are created. So now I hope you understood that it is nothing but a specification that is set in your mind, or we can say that a specification that is fed into the computer, so that computer or our mind uses that specification to create an object of that specification, right? And the third definition is class is a set of objects which share common characteristics, behavior and common properties. So guys, if I tell you that give me 10 square object, so what would you do? You would use the same template or same blueprint or same prototype or same specification to create the 10 object of square. So that is why this definition says that class is a set of object which shares common characteristics, behavior and properties. So all the 10 squares shares the same properties, and that are square has 4 corners and we can open and close this box. So I hope this concept of object and class is clear to you, that object is a physical entity, an object is created from class or template, blueprint or specification, and specification, template and blueprint is nothing but an idea of how to create object from this specification. So guys, this is the idea behind the objects and classes in object-oriented programming. So I hope this is clear to you. So now let's move on and see the another example to understand objects and classes. Okay. So let's say if I ask you that what is this? So again you will be clueless and you don't have any idea that what object is this or what entity is this, because you have never seen this entity before. You are seeing this entity for the very first time. Now after this, if I show you this, that what is this? So you immediately come to know that this is nothing but it is a car. Now again, have you ever wondered why it happened? Because you have this perception in mind, or you have that specification, template or blueprint or prototype set in your mind that whenever you see an object or entity that has 4 wheels, a headlight, a tail light, a window, a number of seats, a driver or steering, then you call that object as car. Now in terms of object-oriented programming, we call this entity as object, and in terms of object-oriented, we call all of these properties as the template, blueprint or specification. Now if I tell you that I want to buy a car, then what would you do? You will ask me that which car you want and what is the specification of the car. Then I will tell you that I need a car with 4 wheels, then 2 headlights, then 2 tail light, then 4 windows, 4 seats, 1 driver seat, 1 steering, and so on and so forth. So basically I am telling you about all the specification, blueprint, template, prototype or the class of object which I want. Now if I take this example into next level, that what happened in industries where cars are developed or manufactured, they also have one blueprint or specification of the car, and using that specification they produce multiple units of car. For example, if I take the example of any one company, for example BMW. So for a specific model of BMW, they have a specification for that model, and using that specification or blueprint or template or class, they produces multiple units of that car. Okay, so we can say that object is an instance of specification, blueprint, template or class. So I hope now you understand the actual idea or nuances of objects and classes, that what was the idea behind the object and classes in object-oriented programming. So again, if we consider this example car, again let's go back to the definition which we saw before. So in context to car, it is also true that class is a physical entity and object is a logical entity. So all the specification of class is a logical entity and the car is itself is a physical entity, right? And class is a prototype, blueprint, template from which objects are created. So as I said that blueprint is a specification of the car and all the cars are created using that blueprint. And if we have multiple cars that belongs to same specification, then we can say that all the car shares the same characteristics, behavior and the properties, right? So if we have a 10 cars with the same model, then obviously all of these cars shares the same specification, like all of that car all of these car has 4 wheels, 2 headlights, 2 tail light, windows, seats and so on and so forth. So guys, by now I hope that you understood the concept of classes and objects really well. Guys, let's move on to the IDE and I will show you the concept of classes and object in action. So guys, now we are on the IDE. So as per our example, let's create a new object of square. Okay, so this is how we create a new object of square in object-oriented programming using this new keyword. Okay, now let's try to run this program. So if I run this program, you will see that we are getting an error, and this error says cannot find symbol, class square and location is class.men. So as I said that computer is a dumb device. Computer do not understand how to create an object of square. So we have to tell our computer and give it all the specification, blueprint, template or prototype so that it can use that specification to create an object of square. And how we do it in object-oriented programming? We simply use class to provide the specification of an object. So let's create a class with the name square. Now the class is created and you can see that the error is completely go away. So in this class, we have to specify all the properties and behaviors of square. So let's specify the properties of this class and we can call state in terms of object-oriented programming. So this square has corners. Okay, corners. And also, so let's create a constructor. So constructor is used to create the object and it is also used to initialize the field of the object or the state of the object. Okay, now let's define the getter and setter, okay, for this property or state. And now let's define the behavior of this object. So the behavior of this object we can open this object and we can close this object. Means we can open a square box or we can or we can close the square box. Okay, so these two are the behaviors of this object. So let's print box is open. Let's copy this from here, paste it here, and here we can say that box is closed. Okay, now let's create this object by passing 4 as number of corners. Okay, let's store this object in a variable square, and the type of this variable is also a square. Okay, now let's print how many corners this object has. So let's do square dot get corners. Okay, and similarly we can call the behavior of this object. So let's call square dot open and square dot close. Let's run the program, and you will see that the state of the object is 4. This means this object has 4 corners, and then we have opened the box, and then we have closed this box. So this is how objects are created in object-oriented programming using classes. And this class is nothing but a specification from which object is created. Now if I take the another example as car, so let's create the new object of car. Again, if you run program, it will throw an error that I don't know how to create an object of car. So in order to create an object of car, we have to tell the computer that this is how you are going to create a car. And how we do it? We do it using classes. So now let's give it a property or the state of the class. So let's call it private. So let's call wheels. Okay, then it has windows. Okay, then it has some seats. Okay, so on and so forth. And what is the behavior of this object? The behavior of this object is a car can run. Okay, now let's create a constructor to initialize all the properties of this class. Okay, this is how we initialize all the properties of this class. Okay, and we can write here car is running. Okay, and again let's create some getter and setter to set and get all the properties. So we are done with the car. So now our computer knows that how the object of car should be created. Okay, so now you can see that the error is gone. Now we have to provide number of wheels, number of seats, and number of windows. So let's say 4 wheels are there, and 4 windows are there, and 4 seats are there. Okay, so this is how we create an object of car. Let's store this object in the variable car, and then we can print all the properties of this object. So car dot get wheels, car dot get windows, car dot get seats. Okay, and then we can call car dot run. This is the behavior of this object. Let's run the program, and you will see that we have 4 wheels, 4 windows, and 4 seats is printed on the screen, and car is currently running. So guys, this is how we create objects in object-oriented programming using classes. So guys, by now I hope that the entire concept of classes and objects is clear to you. And now you understood that what is the idea behind the classes and objects in object-oriented programming. So this is all from my side for this video. If you learned something valuable from this video, then hit the like button in order to make YouTube algorithm happy. Please subscribe to this channel and don't forget to click the bell icon so my friend you never miss any upcoming videos. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.